afternoon, I'm Tennille and this is an IELTS test simulation. Could you tell me your full name, please?
Hi, so my name is Holly Emma Colvin.
What should I call you?
You can call me Holly.
In this first part of the speaking test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. 1. Questions about family. Do you have a large or small family?
I actually have a large family. There are so many people in my family, which always makes events a lot of fun.
Can you tell me something about them?
Sure. So I can tell you who's in my family. Would you like to hear?
Sure.
Great. So I've got my dad, I've got a sister who's 1 year, 1 day older than me, which is pretty crazy. I've also got my mum, then we've got all the extended family. So grandmas, granddads on either side, then we've got cousins. So a lot of people at Christmas events and things like that.
How much time do you manage to spend with members of your family?
So I wish I could spend a lot more time with my family, but they are back home. I'm originally from the Sunshine Coast, Queensland, which means I only get to see them a few times a year. So I would like to spend more time with them because they're lots of fun, but only for special occasions.
What sorts of things do you like to do together?
So we are a pretty active family. So we love to do things like go to the beach, especially because of the fact that we live on the coast. We love to go mountain climbing. We've done a little bit of surfing, not that we're very good at it, but yeah, we like to do mostly adventurous kind of things.
Do you get along well with your family?
We are very close. Some might even say too close, but we do enjoy doing lots of activities together and there's nothing that we wouldn't tell each other. There are no secrets in our family.
2. Questions about festivals. Tell me about the most important festival in your home country.
So there are several festivals. There are a few that come to mind. I used to go to this festival back home and it's called Woodford Folk Festival, which is a lot of fun. Especially, I come from a family that is quite, would you say, hippie maybe? So Woodford can be described as a very hippie kind of festival, but it's got amazing food, great culture, great music. And that's where I spent a lot of time growing up at Woodford Folk Festival.
What special food and activities are connected with that festival?
There's actually a lot. So the best thing about Woodford is it's food from all over the world and it's very culturally diverse, you would say. So you'll get Greek food, Mexican, Australian, all kinds of food that you can imagine. So it's pretty nice, pretty tasty.
What do you enjoy most about it?
Ooh, I'd have to say definitely the arts and music, especially being a dancer myself. Once they have some great live bands playing, it is the best to go and have a little dance in the mosh pit and all the rest of it. So I'd have to say the arts and the music for sure.
Do you think that festivals are important for a country?
I think they are so important, especially as I explained, being a performer myself, I believe it brings people together, it's so much fun, and music is really good for the soul. So I feel like festivals are a great way to bring people together, so I would highly recommend, and I think they're very good for us.
3. Questions about visitors. What would you suggest a visitor should see and do in your country?
There are so many things. Australia is definitely known for the landmarks and we have great scenery. So for instance, back home where I'm from in Queensland, we have incredible beaches and we have an incredible coastline. So I would highly recommend going there. In Melbourne, I would definitely suggest the city. The city of Melbourne is amazing and there is so much to do. Then, there's landmarks all over the country such as Uluru and all these other places that I would highly recommend. Australia is quite beautiful for its scenery.
Are there any traditional music or arts that you would recommend?
Ooh, there's a lot. Especially if you come to Melbourne, we are very culturally diverse. So I would suggest from here, there's a lot of things and places, and there's a lot of places you can go here to see live bands and things like that. So for myself, there's quite a few bars that I know that are local that have live bands that play, which is pretty amazing.
Tell me about some of the foreign visitors or tourists who come to your country.
Of course. So Melbourne especially, we have so many different kinds of people that come here. When you're walking the streets, you will see so many different people of all colors, shapes, sizes, and all from different ethnicities. So you can expect to see a lot of different kinds of people, especially in the heart of Melbourne.
In what ways has tourism changed in Australia?
Tourism has definitely changed. Now we get so many people from all around the world visiting here, especially because So there is so much to do here, and there is so much getting built, and there are so many things for people, and especially when it comes to work as well, there are a lot of jobs here, there are a lot of opportunities here, so it has definitely changed and progressed over the years, and there are a lot of opportunities.
4. Questions about daily routine. What would you like to change about your daily routine?
Great question. So I would definitely like to improve diet and exercise, not just for physical appearance, but more for a mental state. I find dieting and exercise does definitely help you, and I know that for me it makes me in a better mood, and it also makes me feel the best about myself. So if I could, I would like to work out as much as possible and eat as well as I can. But of course, you have to have balance, so you do have to go and see people on the weekend and eat out. But yeah, it's all about balance, so I could use a little bit more of that.
Are all your days the same?
My days are never the same. So as a dancer, we are always doing something different every day, which does make it a lot more exciting.
Tell me about your typical weekday and your typical weekend.
Great. So weekday will always begin by waking up, trying to roll out of bed in the morning, because I feel that's different for everyone and always difficult. But then what I'll do is try to get some exercise in, head to the gym in the morning, then will be a day of work. Now, I predominantly work as a Disney character, so doing children's entertainment. So then I'll get up, it could be any Disney character that the client requests. I'll put on the makeup, put on the wig, put on the costume, and then I will head off and do gigs for the day, and they will be all over Melbourne. Then after that, I'll head home, maybe go out for dinner with friends, and then that brings me to bedtime.
What is the balance of work, study, and free time in your normal day?
Great question. So I actually study as well. So I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Communication Media at RMIT. So I find balancing all of these is actually quite tricky. So you've got full-time work, and I've got full-time uni, and also trying to see friends. So you'll find that the week gets very packed and very busy. But because everything is scheduled out, it does work quite well. This just means you have to have a calendar and write everything down in the diary, and that's what I do.
5. Questions about dancing. Do you enjoy dancing?
I love dancing. If I didn't love it, I definitely wouldn't do it, but it is my profession and I love it.
Why do you love it?
Great question. So I started a few years ago when I was a child, and I took a class and fell in love. But my love actually came from watching movies such as Fame or any dance movies such as Step Up. And after that, I was like, I want to do that. So that's when I began taking classes, and then I moved to Melbourne to study in a full-time dance course where I learned all about it, and that's why now I work as a dancer. And of course, I enjoy clubbing like anyone else. So yeah.
Has anybody ever taught you to dance?
Yes, of course. So I used to get dance class lessons and all the rest of it from a young age. And then I moved here and got a full-time tuition of dancing, which means that I was constantly taught dancing from various teachers, and it's been pretty amazing, and they are very good.
Tell me about any traditional dancing in your country.
So I find the best thing about Australia is we usually like to employ dancing from all around. So I wouldn't just say that we do traditional dancing from Australia. I would say we incorporate it from all kinds and all things around the country. So for instance, we like to incorporate a lot of hip hop culture, and then we also incorporate ballet, which you'll find is very European. So you'll find in Australia, we quite incorporate everything from all over the world. That's probably the best thing I can mention about Australia. The traditional dancing isn't traditional, it's kind of a mixture of everything.
Do you think that traditional dancing will be popular in the future?
That I do. Australia is good for it, but the rest of the world definitely does have their signature traditional dancing. And it is something that will always be a tradition. For instance, ballet will always be traditional in countries such as France and things like that. So it'll definitely always have its roots, and it will always be the signature style of places, and I believe it will be traditional and stay that way for a long time. Although nowadays we do quite mix things together. You'll find, especially for Australia, we do often mix our styles together. So you will have both.
6. Questions about musical instruments. Which instrument do you enjoy listening to the most?
Ooh, great question. I love listening to the violin. I think it's beautiful. It has a great sound. I love the strings. I love also the beauty and watching the artists do it is quite beautiful as well. So I would say it's beautiful to listen to. It sounds very harmonic.
Have you ever learned to play a musical instrument?
I have actually. When I was in year 7, I played the flute and I was actually quite good at it. By that age, I wanted to be in an orchestra when I got older. Obviously that didn't happen, but that's okay. I changed my interest and passion. But I played the flute and I even went to a few band camps and was in an orchestra in school, and it was quite amazing.
Do you think that children should learn to play a musical instrument in school?
Definitely. I think it is so important. And it's so important for children to study something creative as well. And I feel like it trains your brain in a way that other things can't. It's so different to things that are quite logical, like such as mathematics or science. I feel like every child should have a music class where they do learn an instrument. And you never know what you can turn into. And it is very important for students that are quite creative in their passions.
How easy would it be to learn to play a musical instrument without a teacher?
It is definitely more difficult. I would highly recommend getting a teacher because I had a teacher and it was much easier that way. I have tried to teach myself, instruments or guitar by myself, and it is a lot more difficult. And the process is a lot more slower as well. So would recommend getting a teacher for it, but it is still possible to self-teach yourself how to do instruments. And so many famous artists do that themselves. They do teach themselves how to play, and it works out well for them too.
7 questions about traffic. How do most people travel to work where you live?
In Melbourne, we are really renowned for our public transport system, and especially because most people work in the city, we will have things such as trams, buses, and trains that get us into the city. So I would say public transport is best. Where I'm originally from in Queensland, car is the best form of transportation because it is so spread out where you want to go, so you do need a car to travel in Queensland.
What traffic problems are there in your area?
So I find I actually do live outside of city. So I live in Maribyrnong, which means that there's not much traffic there at all. So I am quite fortunate.
How do traffic problems affect you?
So as I mentioned, I don't get all that affected by it because I do live outside of the city. Also as well, my job is not exactly 9 to 5, so I don't hit those peak hour traffic times that every city does. So I'm quite fortunate. I don't travel at peak hour times and I live outside of the city, so I usually don't get in the way all that much. So that works out well for me.
How would you reduce traffic problems in your area?
So I think for Melbourne, the reason we have such a beautiful public transport system is because it's really accessible for everyone, and it is also probably the best option as well. So the fact that a lot of people can migrate and take some public transport, then you've got some drivers as well, so that way it all equals out.
8 questions about your friends. Do you prefer to have one particular friend or a group of friends?
I actually do like a combination of the two. So I do like to have quality friends. That doesn't exactly mean quantity of friends. So it is great to have a big friend group, but only if they are good quality friends. So I find that I have a mixture of both. I have one friend from this group that's great, one friend from another group, and also some great big groups of friends as well. So a good combination.
What do you like doing most with your friends?
Ooh, great question. So I love mostly with my friends doing adventurous kinds of things. So as mentioned, I love things like going to the beach or going to the movies or maybe going climbing a mountain, taking a hike, or even traveling anywhere around Melbourne, such as traveling to Mornington Peninsula or going to Torquay or anything like that. So just doing something fun and adventurous.
Do you think it's important to keep in contact with friends you had as a child?
Absolutely. So I still am very close with people that I grew up in high school with, and I think it's important to keep those relationships, especially, people that you grow up with. They are friendships that you truly value. So I think I would highly recommend, and I do myself, keep in contact with those people.
What makes a friend into a good friend?
Loyalty and honesty for sure. They have to be loyal. You'll find that a lot of people in life do tend to not be as loyal sometimes, and that's when you realize maybe they're not the best friend that you can have. So I definitely think respect and loyal and honesty are the best traits in a good friend.
9 questions about keeping in contact with people. How do you usually contact your friends?
We live in an era that is very technology based. So I would say mostly I keep in touch with people over texting, Facebook, Messenger, Zoom, all the rest of it. So I'd say anything kind of technology wise is the best way to contact people.
Do you prefer to contact different people in different ways?
Definitely. I think the great thing about it is what works for one person might not work for another person. So for instance, if it was my mother, I would contact her over FaceTime so I can see her and she can see me. Whereas someone else, a text is fine. Other people don't like texting, so you might want to give them a call. So it depends on the person, really.
Do you find it easy to keep in contact with friends and family?
I absolutely do. Technology is honestly my savior. So I would find that is the best way I can contact anyone and everyone.
In your country, did people in the past contact people in different ways than they do today?
Absolutely. So back in the day, I believe they would have used the telephone, which wasn't quite as easy as what we have now. Technology has advanced so much. So we have, things that happen at, the drop of a hat, and we've got iPhones and things like that that are instant, and it's really quite easy to message people. So I think back in the day, there was telephone, and, I think that was a bit trickier.
What do you like about living in your hometown?
I love that I live right next to this gorgeous river, so it is a great place to go for walks, but also as well, I love the fact that I am so close to the city, which has endless opportunities of things that I can do, and I also do live close to beaches and hills and mountain areas as well. So I find that Melbourne has a touch of everything, which I absolutely love, and that's why I live here.
What don't you like about living in your hometown?
I think the only thing that I wouldn't like is the fact that it's not where I'm originally from. So I do miss my family. That would probably be the only downside to living where I do live now.
This is part 2 of the IELTS test simulation. I will give you a task card and 1 minute to write some notes, and then you can talk about the topic for 2 minutes uninterrupted. Describe a restaurant you enjoyed going to. You should say where the restaurant was, why you chose this restaurant, what type of food you ate, and explain why you enjoyed eating at this restaurant. So I'll give you a pen and paper.
Thank you.
All yours.
Okay, so my favorite restaurant is named Stalactites. So where Stalactites is it's right in the heart of the CBD. So you'll find it located in the streets of Melbourne, and it is not all that hidden. You will realize that this restaurant has a massive line outside, so it won't be very difficult to find. The reason it has such a massive line is because it has incredible food. So I love this restaurant for so many reasons. It has incredible food, and the style of this food is Greek. So that, first of all, is beautiful. The quality of the food is also amazing. I do love the fact that it is right in the heart of Melbourne. So you can go to this restaurant, Stalactites, and then you can head out afterwards to go to a bar to drink with your friends or to do any kind of activity because it is in Melbourne. So the type of food in this restaurant, as mentioned, is Greek. And I enjoy eating it because I do really like Greek food. But this restaurant in particular does it, and it does it well. The food is quality. Also as well, the service is amazing and impeccable. So the staff treat you so well, they'll seat you, and they can seat quite a lot of you. I find this restaurant is best when you bring a lot of friends together. Also as well, there is huge options, and there are many options on the menu, which I absolutely love. And then you can always get this wonderful banquet that you can share between friends, which is incredible. But the food is like no other. It is absolutely delicious, and there is a lot of option there for you, which is why I enjoy it so much. And with this as well, what we usually get is quite a few sides as well, which we always love to get sides and options. Plus, they also give you the option of lots of alcoholic beverages as well, which is always fun, and soft drinks and water. So that is why I choose Stalactites. Now, for Stalactites, I love that you can dress up to go to it as well. It is quite a nice place to go to, so it's always great to dress up and go there. And you'll find the people that go there are also very friendly, as are the staff. So that's why I choose Stalactites.
Moving on to part 3, I'll now ask you some more questions related to that topic. Why do you think people go to restaurants when they want to celebrate something?
So, the best thing about restaurants is it's food for the soul. So everybody loves food and it is a necessity, of course. So that means everybody needs to eat. Plus, restaurants are a great way to bring people together. You're seated down in a position where you can see everyone and you get great food that everyone enjoys. And that way you get that chance to have that conversation, a deep and meaningful conversation where you can catch up over everything. So that's why restaurants are a great place to go.
Which are more popular in your country, fast food restaurants or traditional restaurants?
I believe there is definitely a combination of both, but I'd have to say the more popular would have to be the fast food chains. You'll find that everywhere you go, you will definitely see a fast food chain, such as Hungry Jack's or McDonald's, KFC, Red Rooster, 7-Eleven, the list really does go on. So I'd say everywhere you look, there will be fast food chains, which is awesome. Then you'll also find there are plenty of other restaurants that are, quite more nice and fancy, where you can dress up. We do have a combination of both.
Why do you think this is?
So we do have to cater for all kinds of people. So for instance, you'll find that the younger generation really do enjoy fast food, as do all generations, of course, but you'll find that with fast food, it has cheaper options that are available for the younger generation, and they seem to like it more, especially. Then you've also got to cater for different kinds of cultures as well. So you'll find that there's cultures that have their own specific traditional type of foods that we do cater for. Then you'll also find age does come into play here. So then you'll find different age groups, such as perhaps the middle generation do prefer to have fancier restaurants where they can head out after a long work day. So we do like to cater for all different types of people, and the types of restaurants need to be diverse to cater for everyone, and there are so many people, which means there's a high demand for all these types of restaurants and fast food chains. So it's a little bit for everyone, no matter who you are, shape, size, age, it caters for everyone.
Some people say that food in an expensive restaurant is better quality than the cheaper restaurants. Would you agree with that?
I'd say that's not always the case, but in my opinion, that is the case. I do believe that sometimes spending a little bit more, you do get good quality food that does make you feel really great. In saying that though, that is not always the case. Sometimes you'll find that fast food does outweigh something from a fancier restaurant. It really depends on your taste as well. So for instance, I do like foods of all kinds and types, which means that depending on my mood, both could be good for me. So I'll find that a lot of other people do feel the same, but then there are others that do need a specific type of food, and some people do have dietary requirements, so it's catering for that as well.
On the topic of producing food, do you think there will be a greater choice available in shops in the future or less choice?
I believe that as a society, we are constantly progressing. So I do personally believe that we will only progress with our food, the kinds of food, and the kinds of things we can create and the combinations that we can make. So I believe that in future, the opportunities are limitless with what we can do with food, and especially the modern technology that's going to come into play. And also as well, you'll find food technologists and scientists are constantly finding ways to progress food. So I think we will have more option.
What effects have modern technology had on the way we produce food?
So as previously mentioned, we are constantly progressing our food. So you'll find that modern technology finds ways to innovate food and make it different, make the tastes better, make the appeal better. You'll find that modern technology takes things that are raw and invents it into something much more creative and tasteful with a huge flavor palette. So you'll find that modern technology often combines and makes things that are new and creative and better.
How important is it for a country to grow all of the food it needs as opposed to having it imported from other countries?
It is incredibly important. Especially for Australia, we do need our own source of food and we do need to grow these things ourselves. And especially, for instance, we need to keep people in work. So farmers, for instance, need to be kept in work. It's all about that. And we also need to have our own food for our own country. So yes, it's great to import things, but we as a society need to keep our country alive. And the best way to do that is keep the food here and keep people working here as well. But everyone in their country needs to have their own source of food.
That concludes our IELTS test simulation for today. I'm Tennille. Thanks for joining us and thank you for your responses, Holly.
Thank you so much, Tennille, and thank you for having me.